Alright, quadratics. So number one, you need to model the scenario. Joseph kicks the soccer ball into the air, and it can be modeled with this quadratic equation. Type it into your calculator and then look at the graph. So you need to plug this in your graph, and you got to change these t's to x's. So you need to write in a negative 5.6x squared plus 15x. So you got to change those t's to x's. And then when you look at the graph, it looks something like this. It starts off right here, and it goes up, and then it comes back down. And this is really all we care about from here to here. Even though your parabola keeps going forever. But if he's going to kick the soccer ball, this is time in seconds, and then this is height in feet. So 1 second, 2 seconds, it looks something like this. So 1, 2, 3 seconds, and then the height comes all the way up here close to 10. So question number one, approximate, that means do your best guess, doesn't need to be exact. How high is the ball going to reach? So this is when the ball leaves his foot, and then it goes higher, 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 higher. This is its maximum height right here, which is somewhere close to 10. So about 10 feet or meters or meters. Okay, 10 meters. What time is it going to reach its max height? So in seconds, what time does it reach its max height? Is something close to, in between 1 and 2, closer to 1. So it's like 1.25 seconds maybe. And then the last question, when is it going to hit the ground? So that's when it comes back down right here, hits the ground in between 2 and 3 seconds. Closer to 3, maybe like 2 3/4 of a second. So just analyzing a graph. Type a graph in, but you have to change them to x's, and then kind of look at the picture. Number two, we're going to give you a formula that models this situation. So now you're on a roller coaster that just drops vertically, so just drops you free fall. This model will give you h, which is your height, based on t time for seconds. And they want to know how many seconds does it take if you start clear up here at the very top. If you start up here at 60, how many seconds does it take for you to hit the ground? So when are you going to be at 0 feet? So if we've got a model right here, we're going to take the model and we're going to solve it for 0. So we're going to plug 0 into h. So let's put 0 right here for h. So 0 equals negative 16. I'm going to change these t's to x's because my t's look like 2's. X squared minus 64x plus 60. Okay, and when is this going to equal 0? So this is a quadratic formula. Let's just use the quadratic equation. A is going to be a negative 16, B is going to be a negative 64, and C is going to be 60. So if we can identify correctly A, B, and C, you can plug them into the quadratic formula and it will give you 2 roots. And we got to figure out which root is our answer. So x equals negative b. So that's a negative 64 plus or minus the square root of b squared. Put it in parentheses or you're going to miss it. Negative 64 squared minus 4 multiplied by a, negative 16 multiplied by c, which is 60, all over 2 times a, so 2 times a negative 16. Okay, now on your calculator, you just type that fraction template and then type this in and press enter, but you got to do it twice, once for plus, then you just copy and paste it and change that plus to a minus. So I'm going to pause it and calculate that and see what the answer. Okay, so my 2 roots are a negative 4.78 seconds and 0.78388 blah 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 seconds. And the negative seconds doesn't really apply to this context, so I'm going with this. So you will hit 0 at exactly 0.7838. And the quadratic formula, if I ask you to give me the first 5 decimals, the calculator, you just write them all down. So it gives you precisely exactly as far as you want to go. Okay, number 3. Which of these 4 quadratics are going to give you imaginary solutions or complex solutions? Okay, imaginary answers happen if under the square root you have a negative. So if you ever have a negative under the square root, that is going to give you, take the negative out and it becomes imaginary, and then the square root of 16 is just 4. So the square root of a negative 16 is 4 imaginaries, while the square root of 16 is just 4 reals. So if you know that under the square root is a negative, that is going to give you imaginary answers. Let's just, instead of doing the negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, let's just look at this. Let's just look at what's under the square root. Okay, so let's go through them. Let's look at a. On a is 2, b is a negative 12, and c, you got to move this over. Everything's got to be on the same side, so c is going to be 18. So now, if I just look at what's under the square root, it's going to be b squared, so it's going to be a negative 12 times negative 12 minus 4 times a times c. And so I'll type that in on the calculator. And let's see, what do I get? Minus 4 times 2 times 18. So we get 0. So under there is 0, so that one's going to give me real answers, not imaginary answers. So A is not going to work. So let's go to B. B, A is 10. B is, I got to move this over, I got to move this over. B is going to be a positive 6, and C is going to be a positive 6. So under the square root, you're going to have b squared. So that's 36 minus 4 times 10 times 6. So 36 minus 4 times 10 times 6. That's the one. That's a negative 204. And if I've got a negative, that means it's going to be imaginary. So it's going to be B. Okay, 4. What are the roots? That's the same as the solution, or the zeros. So they give you quadratic equation, you're going to have to use the quadratic formula. So 8n squared, let's move these over here. So minus 8n plus 7 equals 0. So A is 8, B is a negative 8, C is 7. Okay, so it's x equals a negative b, negative 8, plus or minus the square root of a negative 8 squared minus 4 times a times c, all over 2a, so all over 2 times 8. So I'm going to clean this up on the calculator to see what that is. Alright, 64 minus 4 times 8. So here's what we got. We got 8 plus or minus the square root of negative 160 all over 16. So you got to take that negative out. So it's going to be 8 plus or minus an imaginary square root of 160 all over 16. Okay, now let's see what's in 160. 160, you need to break that down to a 16 and a 10. 16 is a 4 and a 4. That's a 2 and a 2. That's a 2 and a 2. 10 is a 2 and a 5. So that pair comes out, that pair comes out. So 2 on the outside, a 2 on the outside, that's 4 on the outside, and left on the inside is 2 and a 5. So we got 8 plus or minus 4 imaginaries. Inside is 10 all over 16. Now this is going to simplify because you can divide both of these by 16. I can divide the 8 by 16 and the 4 by 16. So 8, 4, and 16. That's going to change to a 2 plus or minus 1 I squared of 10. Divide this by 4, that's over 4. Alright, number 5. Okay, number 5 is kind of just like number 2. So they're going to give us a formula and a story problem. Then the formula is a quadratic, so we're probably going to end up doing the quadratic formula. So this formula models the height of an object after seconds if it is shot straight up from the ground with the speed of 60 feet per second. So they want to know what time is it going to be at 56 feet. So 56, I got to take 56 and plug it into this formula, but 56 is the height. So I'm plugging 56 in for the height. So it's going to be 56 is equal to a negative 16. I'm going to change them to x's. I don't know why I did a parenthesis. X squared plus 60x. Okay, so first move, I'm going to move this 56 over here. So I'm going to minus 56, I'm going to minus 56. So my A is going to be how many squares I've got. My A is a negative 16. My B is 60. And C is going to be a negative 16. So now plug them into the quadratic formula. X equals negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C, and that's all over 2A, 2 times a negative 16. Jace, put this up. 6.7. Okay, now I'm gonna just type this in on the calculator and press enter. So let me pause it and calculate. It's going to give me two answers. I need to do it twice. Once for the plus and once for the minus. Okay, I just noticed I messed up C. I need to write better. This is my C right here. C is not a negative 16. That's what A was. C is a negative 56. So the only place C is going into the formula is right here. So times a negative 4 times A times C, this needs to be a negative 56 all over 2A. So now type this in onto the calculator. So let me pause. Alright, so I plugged it in. I did it once for plus and I did it once for minus. The plus one gave me 7/4. And then when I did it for minus, it gave me 2. So there's going to be 2 times that this object is going to be 56 feet tall. So if I shoot it, that's going to be once going up. So here, let's say 56 is right here. And then when it hits, maxes out and turns around and comes down, so it's going to hit 56 twice. Once on its way up and then once on its way down. So on its way up is 7/4 of a second. On its way down is at 2 seconds. So those are the times that the object reaches 56 feet. Okay, the factored form of x squared plus 16. If you go through them one at a time and you distribute, that's going to give you x squared. X times 4 is going to give you a 4x. Minus 4 times x is a minus 4x. And minus 4 times 4 is a minus 16. Those will zero out, but the problem is you got a negative 16 and they need a positive 16. The answer is C. And here is why. X times x is going to give you an x squared. X times a negative 4i is going to give you negative 4ix. And then 4i times x is a plus 4ix. And then 4i times a negative 4i is a negative 16i squared. You can go. And I squared is a negative 1, so a negative 1 times negative 16 is a positive 16. So these zero out, and you got x squared and a positive 16. So C. So remember that I times the I is a negative 1. Okay, number 7. 7. Here we go. It's easier if you blow it up and make it big. So number 1, 53 and 1 are on a straight line, so they had to give you 180. So if I do 180 minus 53, 1 is 127, and 1 and 3 are the same. So 3 is 127. So 53 and 2 are the same. So 2 and 53 are the same. And then I got those 4 done. Okay, now I'm going to move over and look at 4, 5, and 6. 4, 5, and 6. This is a 90. So I know 6 is a 90 because those are vertical angles, so they're the same. So 6 is 90. And I know that 53 is in the same position as 5. So those are the same. So 5 is going to be 53. So I know this. I know that 5 and 4 have to be 90. Because on the left is 90 and here's a 90, and that's 90, 90 is 180. On that straight line you got 180. So 5 and 4 got to add and give you 90. So I'm going to take 90 and I'm going to minus what 5 is. 5 is 53. 90 minus 53, that's 37. So if this part's 53 and this part's 37, thanks, that will give you 90. So 4 has to be 37. Okay, now 4, let me erase some of this stuff. 4 is in the same location as 7. So whatever 4 is, 7's got to be the same because they're corresponding angles. So 4 is 37. 7 also has to be 37. And 9 has to be 37 because 9 and 7 are vertical angles. 7 and 8 got to add to give you 180. So if I do 180 minus 37, that's 143. So 8's got to be 143, and 10's got to be 143. Okay, number 8. These lines are parallel. If these lines are parallel, all these angles are either congruent to each other or they add and give you 180. So this angle right here and this angle right here are congruent to each other. They are the same. This is 90, this is 90. So x plus 25 equals 90. So what number plus 25 is 90? Minus 25 minus 25. So x has got to be 65. And then y is corresponding. This one right here is the same as these two. So this one also has to be 90. So y minus 18 equals 90. So plus 18 plus 18, y equals 108. Okay, number 9. These two lines are parallel. So these two angles have to add and give you 180. So they are not the same. They're going to add and give you 180 because they are consecutive interior angles, and those add and give you 180. So 5x minus 25 plus 3x plus 9, so you get 8x plus almost negative 16, and that equals 180. So I'm going to plus 16, so 8x equals 196 divided by 8, divided by 8, 196 divided by 8. So x equals 49 halves, or I guess if you change that to a decimal, that's 24.5. So that's okay if you get a decimal. Okay, 10. 83 and x, they are not the same. They're going to add and give you 180. So if I do 180 minus 83, that's going to give me x. So x is 97. But this 83 is equal to this because these are alternate exterior angles. So y minus 13 equals 83. Okay, that's right. Y minus 18 equals 33. So plus 13 plus 13. So y equals 96. Okay, 11. Do you have enough to determine these are parallel? P and Q. Are P and Q parallel? P and Q are parallel if 128, this angle, plus this angle. Okay, these are not going to be congruent. They're going to be supplementary. So they're going to add and give you 180. So 128 plus 24 plus 27. You add that together and it gives you 179. So they are not parallel. If they would equal 180, then they will be parallel. So they're almost parallel, but they're not. So on 12, if you add this angle right here, well, this angle right here, and these two together, did they add and give you 180, or are they congruent? And these two have to be congruent. They're the same. They're in corresponding angles. So if these are really both 148, then yes, they're parallel. And this is 105 plus 38. That's not going to happen. So this is 143. So it's no. If it would have added and equaled 148, then yes, they will be parallel because corresponding angles are congruent. Okay, 3 and 6. 3 and 6 are alternate interior. 4 and 6 are consecutive interior. 2 and 7 are alternate exterior. 1 and 5 are corresponding. 1 and 8 are alternate exterior. Small 0. That's quadratic formula. So A equals 6. B equals a negative 11. C equals a negative 140. You got to move everything over to the same side. So x equals negative b. So negative 11 is positive 11 plus or minus the square root of b squared. Negative 11 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. So now I'm going to pause. I'm going to type that in my calculator. You got to do it once for the plus, once for the minus. And they don't want both zeros. They just want the smallest zero. So let me pause and calculate. Alright, so the answers I got 35 divided by 6 for one of my answers, and then my other answer I got a negative 4. So the smallest of those two zeros is a negative 4. Alright, the last one is kind of the same as some others we've seen. So you got a story problem, and they're giving you a formula. So this formula is stopping distance. It estimates the minimum stopping distance in feet for a car that's traveling so many miles an hour. So if a car stops in 200 feet, what is the fastest it could have been traveling? So let's take 200, and 200 is the distance. So it's going to be 200 equals 0.05 s squared plus 1.1 s. I should change those to x's. So move 200 over here. Get everything on one side. 0.05 x squared plus 1.1 x minus 200 equals 0. So now A is going to be 0.05. B is going to be 1.1. C is a negative 200. I just use quadratic formula. So x equals a negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all divided by 2 times a. So I need to do it twice. Do it once for plus, do it once for minus. Just type it in on your calculator, hit enter, and let's see which of those two answers we want. So let me pause it. Okay, so my two answers. One of them was 53.195, And one of them was a negative 75.195. And a negative speed doesn't make sense. So if I know it took 200 feet to stop, this is how police figure out if you're speeding or not. They can measure your skid marks when you're in an accident. And if I know your skid marks are exactly 200 feet long, I know you were going exactly 53 miles an hour. So this is the one we're going to go with.